All right, welcome everybody to our June 6, 2023, 2 p.m. consent agenda meeting. Please let the record reflect that all 5 commissioners are present, 4 of us in the chamber, and Commissioner Cuny is joining us virtually on Zoom. There was no written comment on any of our items on the agenda, with the exception of one of our public hearing items. But we will begin today with open public forum. So open public forum has traditionally been limited to 15 minutes, but we have 8 individuals who showed up today who would like to provide open public forum. So we are going to go with 2 minutes apiece. So we'll just go a little over the traditional 15 minutes, and we will start with Jesus Torres. Please come forward to the microphone, and if you could introduce yourself, please state your name and address for the record, and then you'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Jesus Torres, 508 South Cedar Street. I work at Mia Mujeres in Action. I'm the community organizer and policy advisor there. Before moving to Spokane, I was a language teacher for 6 years and an English language learner coordinator for 2. In those 8 years, I learned that in ideal circumstances, it takes people 3 to 5 years to become fully English proficient. Most people, unfortunately, are not in ideal circumstances. They have to learn English while working full-time, caring for their families, and adjusting to their new surroundings and a new culture. Most federal, state, and local services are provided in language access. They provide very good language access, but in reality, most of these plans are underfunded, and they provide just the bare minimum. Various departments here in the county have to come up with their own language access plan. They have to pay for it out of their own budgets. And I've had the opportunity to meet with many of them, the county clerk, the county assessor, the court administrator, and the county auditor. And I've heard similar things from most of them. They do their best to serve the LEP or limited English proficient residents of this county, but there's very little in the way of instruction and service-specific processes for them to follow. Various county officials have also shared that they rely on some of their staff members to translate whenever an LEP person is brought forth and trying to seek services. When the bilingual staff member is not around to seek services, the service usually fails. The LEP person and the county employee providing these services have to struggle to understand each other, taking up valuable time and resources. This piecemeal approach has proven to be both inefficient and ineffective. We have been asking the county to develop a comprehensive access plan that covers all of its departments with detailed processes. A centralized plan would help eliminate redundancies. It would streamline the process and make it more cost-effective, delivering these cost-effective quality services to all residents. Every single resident should have accessibility to the county. We've been fortunate enough that 15 different local community organizations have signed a letter of support for this campaign. These stakeholders represent a large and linguistically diverse sector of Spokane. And this week, I'm accompanied by Arabic speakers of the county, and I hope you'll take the time to listen to them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, next up we have Nadal Albayabi. And again, if you could state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 2 minutes.
My name is Nidal Bayabi. My address 220 North Street, apartment 14 تشيني. مساء الخير للجميع. إذا كان جوهر النفس البشرية هو الحرية، فإن مفتاح الحرية بمعناها الواسع هو اللغة، لأن اللغة هي وسيلة لتشكيل الفكر والتفكير، وهذا يعني أن للغة تأثيرا كبيرا على الطريقة التي نفهم بها العالم ونتعامل معه. وعندما لا نجيد اللغة لا نفقد حريتنا فقط بل كرامتنا أيضا. وعلى ضوء ذلك تكمن أهمية توفير خدمات في المؤسسات الحكومية المختلفة لغير الناطقين باللغة الإنجليزية، لأن ذلك سيساهم في إدماج المهاجرين في المجتمع وتحقيق أكبر قدر ممكن من العدالة وتلافي سوء الفهم الناتج عن عدم إجادة اللغة. بما أن اللغة وسيلة للانخراط في المجتمع، فإن ذلك سيقلل من حالات التردد التي يعاني منها عادة المهاجرين في التواصل والاستفادة من المؤسسات الحكومية القانونية وحتى الرعاية الصحية والتعليمية وفرص العمل. كما أن توفير هذه الخدمات سيكون له دور كبير في مساعدة المهاجرين في أن لا يتعرضوا للإساءة والاستغلال والأخطاء الناتجة عن سوء الفهم بسبب عدم توفر معلومات كافية لكيفية التعامل مع متطلبات وتحديات وقيم المجتمع الجديد. ومن خلال تجربتي كمعلم للغة العربية في سبوكان وتعاملي مع الجالية العربية، لاحظت أن ذوي الدخل المحدود والذين لم تتح لهم الظروف لتعلم اللغة الإنجليزية بشكل جيد يعانون غالباً من سوء فهم يصاحبه شيء من التردد في معرفة كيفية الاستفادة من الخدمات القانونية والخيرية وكذلك الصحية والتعليمية في سبوكان، فيصبح وضع المهاجرين كقطة سوداء في غرفة مظلمة. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up we have Hassan Hassan. Same thing, if you could state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hassan Hassan, 8414 North General Grant Way, Spokane, Washington. So I am a DSHS certified medical and social interpreter. I've been interpreting for Spokane County courts for around 10 years. I've been certified for almost 14 years. And I am a full-time job as a legal assistant at the IRC, International Rescue Committee. And also I represent Spokane County in the Washington State Refugee Advisory Council. So I've been working with refugees all my life here in the United States. And I have, I really notice what refugees struggle from. So I'm one of the first certified Arabic interpreters in Spokane. I've interpreted in multiple locations, including schools, Social Security Administration, USCIS, medical clinics, DSHS offices, and Department of Licensing. I have witnessed the struggle that my community is facing trying to navigate the complex legal system due to lack of language services. I also want to bring your attention to some points to express the extreme need for the language access plan. In courts, when an LEP is told to go get a civil standby, there's no equivalent in Arabic. So when I say that in Arabic, I explain it in a whole sentence. Or go give a DNA sample. How will they be able to call or request that after they are released from jail? Also, mental and drug evaluation clinics are not providing interpreter services, but relying on defendants' friends or family. How accurate is the interpretation and how accurate is the evaluation? Ignition interlock, book and release, reinstating the license, PAR, collection agencies are all new concepts that need more than hearing the word in court to understand. It took me, as a fluent English speaker, a while to understand that after I did my own research. What is a defendant benefiting from attending a class, whether it's a victim impact panel, Alive at 25, group sessions, etc., if no interpretation is provided? How is a client supposed to request a bench warrant recall if the clerk doesn't have access to interpretation services? How can a person file a small claims? Sorry. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up, we have Mary Giannini.
Good afternoon. I'm Mary Giannini. I live at 1130 South Wall Street in Spokane. I would like to speak just briefly about Scraps Hope Foundation. As you know, Scraps Hope Foundation raises funds to provide medical veterinary services to Scraps for the animals in the shelter. I asked the Scraps Hope Foundation whether they would consider as those medical expenses the expenses of rehab and training for dogs that have behavioral issues that may be at risk because of that. I was told that, yes, they would. The foundation does not interfere in operational decisions of Scraps personnel to decide how that money is spent, but they would not object if the personnel did want to spend money for that kind of expense. Excuse me. I offered the Scraps Hope Foundation a substantial donation from me and from people I know who are concerned about this issue. I have not gotten a response from them. I don't expect to, because I understand that it is an operational decision, and Scraps personnel would need to decide if they could use that money. But I did want to make it clear that it would be available from those of us that are concerned about the 7 or 8 dogs that are currently at risk, and perhaps others. So thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Brianna Franzen. Again, if you could state your name and address for the record, you'll have 2
Yes.
minutes.
Good afternoon. I'm Brianna Franzen. My address 12612 East Desmet. At a Scraps recent all-staff meeting, Jesse Ferrari claimed that the strep zoo incident in November 2021 was caused by housing dogs in plastic crates. His comment is a clear indication of his lack of knowledge. Strep zoo is a bacteria which causes respiratory illness in dogs, but it's normally found in horses, cattle, and pig, called strangles. The onset in dogs is typically sudden, and many are asymptomatic. The survival of the dogs relies on rapid identification and antibiotic treatments. The incident in 2021 could have been far more deadly without the knowledge and swift actions of the director at the time. Years prior, she had attended a continuing education course which detailed strep zoo, and she recognized the illness. The 2 deceased dogs were driven to WSU by me to have their necropsy performed. This confirmed the culprit was strep zoo. The director at the time contacted the University of Shelter Medicine to get a directive on how to treat it, and although extremely rare, it can be transmitted to humans. The director, Dr. O'Keefe, the scraps licensed veterinary technician, and myself wore extensive PPE and treated every single dog in the shelter. To have this leader spreading false information and making unfounded comments to our county workers and the community is dangerous for the dogs and for legal. We ask that you terminate Jesse Ferrari for his lack of ethics and lack of knowledge.
Thank you. Next, Alicia Spots. Again, if you'd state your name and address for the record, you'll have 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm Alicia Spots, and I live at 16123 East Longfellow in Spokane. As we have stated at other meetings, Cooper's shelter status changed from available for adoption to awaiting behavioral assessment. Just minutes after firing the last employee of the dog team, his records we received confirmed there was no incident or reason for this status change. Now Scraps leadership is refusing to allow any dog that they have arbitrarily changed to awaiting behavior assessment to be transferred to rescues or adopted. They state they are waiting for a CARS behaviorist to come in July to assess these dogs. To summarize, they state they are at capacity and cannot accept stray dogs, but they refuse to allow dogs to go to rescue or be adopted. It doesn't make any sense. Cooper has had 10 meet and greets with a person who adopted another Scraps behavior dog. She took her time and did multiple meetings to ensure the safety of her resident dogs and Cooper. Since all meetings went well, she decided that she wanted to adopt Cooper and is now being told she cannot adopt him. This is a great adopter who ticks all the boxes and is being denied adopting a dog. Cooper is being denied a chance at a forever home with a responsible pet owner for no reason. Jesse is constantly commenting about the risk these dogs pose. But if you look at it logically, there is less risk in placing a behavior dog than in another dog because we know its history and we know its triggers. Every animal is a risk. Driving a car is a risk. Living is a risk. The excuses Jesse uses is that legal has everything tied up, which is absurd when the...
Thank you. All right, and finally, we have 2 more. Next, Donald Hinton. Name
Hello,
and address, and 2 minutes.
I'm Don Henson, 5515 North Oak Street here in Spokane. I just adopted probably one of the last dogs that was on the behavioral assessment risk list, and now that they've stopped letting those dogs be adopted. So I adopted Oatley 2 weeks ago Friday, and I was aware that he had been abandoned in a truck. They had to pull him out of the back window of a truck with a collar to get him out. He was a guard dog for him. He had all these behavioral issues. He was just difficult, and so anyway, I saw a picture of him on Facebook that some people had posted, and I signed up to have a meeting with Scraps about him. The very next day, he had been taken off of the adoption list, and that scared me. Because like, wow, why would you do that unless you're going to put him down? So I've managed to get a hold of somebody at Scraps, and they were eventually able to answer my question that no, he's not available for adoption now, and he was up for behavioral analysis. But fortunately, the next day was I had my appointment, and it was also an open house there. So I went in and met him, and he was a little aggressive to me at the fence, But he calmed down, he was just fine, and rolled over for me, and they did let me take him home, and my understanding is he's the last of those dogs that, they've stopped letting people take those dogs home, as Ms. Spots has just mentioned. And he's an angel. I've had no problems with him. I'm not a dog trainer. I had a big dog before, and he's an angel. He just needed to get into a loving condition and away from being locked up in a kennel for 2.5 years. And so the behaviors that I was told he had expressed in the past has not been an issue at all for me. And just to think that his adoption might have been stopped if I hadn't seen him that weekend, it just tears my heart out. And I don't understand why we're holding these dogs unavailable for adoption when there are available people to take them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And finally, Eric Merrick. I think Mr. Merrick provided us with this printout so that we all have. So if you could state your name and address for the record, and then you will have 2 minutes.
Very good. So good afternoon. My name is Eric Merrick, and my address is 4910 South Chapman in Spokane Valley. Green Acres, as some of us older people can remember. We'll start off with a little background. It was May 4th, 1974. I was sitting on the hill right over here below the U.S. Pavilion at the Expo. And to remind everybody, we're approaching the 50-year Expo, kicking off in 11 months. I'm sitting there with my dad, my mom, and my family. And all of a sudden, after sitting there for about an hour preparing for the opening ceremonies, move in people who are blocking it with signs protesting the president. Well, my dad, being the initiative he is, stepped up and found his own way of moving them out. Now, this really relates to what I want to talk with you about. We have people who are moving in, forcing others to move out. Looking at my statistics here for you, I want to talk about my property. In that property, we moved in 2004, and we bought it from my father-in-law, so it's a generational home. And we live in an area, and Mary, you're probably very familiar, it's not too far from CV, back in south of CV just a bit. But we moved in there, and since 2004, it's gone astronomical. The prices, if you can see here on my charts, the land price has gone up 619% from our assessor value. Building 116, a total of almost 200% increase. Now you can see over the chart, things have changed. I even put down there a little bit of information for you showing about how the taxes are distributed. And I commend the county because you guys seem to hold your taxes at the lowest, but it's still a burden on the people. And you're wondering what all this means is we've lived there for quite a while. I'm edging into retirement. I'm going to run into a fixed situation where I don't have the income where I do now. This is becoming a problem for the people. And I'm one who wants to speak up for it and ask your help to go ahead and make sure we work through this for all the seniors who are coming up.
Thank you. Okay, well, that concludes our open public forum. And so now this moves us on to the rest of our agenda. I will ask, are there any items that any of my fellow commissioners would like to take separately on items 2, 3, and 4? Any of those sub-items you want to take separately? No? Okay, then I am open to a motion.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we approve items 2, 3, 4, and all the sub-items appearing thereunder in today's agenda.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. That brings us to item number 5, which is a public hearing item. Now, this was one that we were briefed on Tuesday, May 9th. We closed public hearing, but we left written testimony open. And then we do have 3 items that we did receive for those. Those were provided for each of the commissioners. Matt, is there anything you wanted to brief us on this? Because this is only decision only on item number 5.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner.
Like you, we've received testimony from parties both in favor of the vacation and opposed to it. And staff recommendation would be to deny the vacation until such time as the parties work out mutually agreeable access. There were some valid concerns stated by some of the opponents, and I believe they are working to that end and are more than happy to revisit it at such time as they do have the access worked out.
Commissioner Waldron.
Thanks, Mr. Zaracore. So it says here from the petitioner that the petitioner agrees to let the adjacent owner continue to use the access to the property by granting of an easement. Can that be done prior to us vacating a portion of the road?
Yeah, that's actually what we expect to occur, is
Okay.
that they'll grant these easements and they'll give them the access they need. Frankly, a portion of the road they're traveling on now is a private road, but it does run over a portion of the current right-of-way that we're talking about vacating. So it would just make sense to wait until they have the access ironed out.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Matt? No? Okay, well, in that case, then open to a motion.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we accept the recommendation of the county road engineer and deny this request for a vacation until such time as the parties can come forward with a mutually agreeable method for addressing access to the identified parcels. Thank you.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further conversation, discussion, concerns? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. That brings us to item number 6, which is a public hearing item to consider the vacation of a portion of Saltese Lake Road, County Engineer Road File number 678 for Spokane County Public Works Department, and another presentation by Matt Zaracore.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next slide, please. Thanks, Ron. You can see this next vacation that's being proposed is in east of Spokane, kind of in the valley there on the south end of Saltese Lake Road. And what we have is just a little bit of excess right-of-way. The roadway currently goes to the south of this small portion of property. The vacation would go back to Dan Sampson, the petitioner, and we don't have any issue with it. If we did anything with this road, it would be to straighten it and pull it further away from this property, so we don't see a future or current need for the excess right-of-way. So staff recommendation would be to support vacating the right-of-way.
Any questions for Matt? Okay. All right, well, this is a public hearing item, so anybody wishing to testify on agenda item number 6A, please come forward, or if you're joining us online via Zoom, please press star, or please use the raise hand function, or if you're on the phone, please press star 9. Second call for anybody wishing to testify on public hearing item number 6A. Third and final call. We'll leave it a few more seconds for those joining us online. No? Okay. Seeing nobody wishing to testify, we'll close the public hearing, and I'll look to my fellow commissioners for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we accept the recommendation of the county road engineer with regard to the vacation of Saltese Lake Road, County Engineers Road File number 678 for the Spokane County Public Works Department.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Now, we do have a by-leave item that was discussed this morning regarding a letter of support to the Washington State Administrative Offices of the Courts, supporting district courts seeking of grant funding for our therapeutic courts. So I think we all had an opportunity to look at the letter. Is there a motion on this? And then I will have to open it up for public comment.
I move that we authorize a letter to Washington State Administrative Office of the Courts in support for Spokane County District Court's Therapeutic Court Grant Funding application to sign it other than an open public meeting.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. So I will open it up to anybody wishing to testify on this item. If there's anybody in the chambers, please come forward. Or again, if you're joining us on Zoom, please use the raise hand function, or phone, please press *9. Second call for anybody wishing to testify on our by-leave item today. Third and final call. Seeing nobody wishing to testify, we'll close the public hearing on that portion, and I will look to and then I will call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes unanimously. All right. Mr. Simmons, Mr. Anderson, any items to come before us the rest of the meeting?
Nothing for me.
No?
Nothing for me.
Okay. All right. Well, then we will sign some documents. And Commissioner Giannini, do we have your permission to use your stamp?
Yes, you do.
Okay. We will get these items signed, stamped, and in that case, if there's nothing else for the good of the order, we are adjourned for the day.